Good morning, everyone, and welcome, and a special welcome to our guests who are visiting us today. It's a great day. It's a great way to start the week off with a visit by Congressman Doug Collins. Congressman Collins is a very busy man. In fact, he's going to be rushing to the airport as soon as his address with us today is over to get back to D.C. So we're very appreciative that you have carved out some time for us this morning. Congressman Collins is a very well-known figure in North Georgia, but perhaps some of you may not be too familiar with his background. He has an extraordinarily diverse background, and I will highlight a few of those things that he's done in just a few minutes. But the lesson for you young folks here is how much you can do with your life if you really put your mind to it, and how many things you can get involved with, and how widely diverse you can make your professional career and your personal life if you have that personal energy and drive to make a difference in your community. And the common theme with Congressman Collins has always been service to others. And that motivation began when he was a child at home, as it does for many of us. And he's a native of Gainesville, Georgia. And Congressman Collins saw public service modeled by his dad, who was a Georgia State Trooper, now retired, and his mom, who provided care to local senior citizens while he was growing up. After graduating from North Hall High School, Congressman Collins earned a degree in political science and criminal justice from the University of North Georgia. And then he became an intern in the U.S. House of Representatives, and that was the first step of what would become a career of service to others. The congressman earned a master's degree in divinity from New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. He was ordained and for the next 11 years pastored the Chicopee Baptist Church. In 2006, he was elected to represent Georgia's 27th State House District. During his first term in the state legislature, he completed law school at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School and established his own private legal practice. During his tenure in the State House, he served as the governor's floor leader, where he shepherded legislation to strengthen the very famous and important Hope Scholarship, which benefits generations of Georgians. As a U.S. Air Force Reserve chaplain, Congressman Collins has ministered to our country's military since 2002. He continues as a lieutenant colonel and a chaplain in the Air Force Reserves today. He served a combat tour in Iraq in 2008, a very difficult time in Iraq that was, and he was stationed at Balad Air Force Base while there. As a lieutenant colonel, he still remains in the Air Force Reserve. He has served as a U.S. representative for Georgia's 9th Congressional District since 2013. Congressman Collins is married to Lisa, and they have a daughter, Jordan, and sons, Copeland and Cameron. In the 115th Congress, Representative Collins serves as the vice chair of the House Republican Conference, after being elected to this leadership position by his colleagues in the House. He also serves on both the House Judiciary and Rules Committees. He chairs the Rules Subcommittee on Rules and Organization of the House, a very important subcommittee, and is the vice chair of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Courts, Intellectual Property, and the Internet. In his role on the Rules Committee, he helps manage every single piece of legislation that comes to the floor of the House. Personally, I'm honored to serve on Congressman Collins' committee to nominate deserving young people for the Federal Service Academies, and collectively, we as a group are very honored to have you here this morning, sir. Please.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Oh, good morning. Good morning, sir. Is that for an Air Force guy? Okay, there's Army in the room, correct? I'm kidding. For an Air Force guy, can I get a good morning? Good morning, sir. All right, well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here this morning. It's good to have traveled not very far to get here to speak. As we were talking earlier, Colonel and I were talking, I grew up in Gainesville, and growing up in Gainesville is really interesting because we had two institutions in Gainesville that growing up, that unless you for some reason were a part of them, you did not really know they existed. One was Burnell University. Because back when I was growing up, Burnell was this wonderful university, a women's college, which most of them came from Atlanta or other places, came to Gainesville during the week and then went home. And so for a North Hall kid, I didn't get into Gainesville, so I didn't know much about Burnell. The other one, though, I had a great opportunity to know about, and that was Riverside. Now, Riverside, though, for me, was because of two people that really, when I think of Riverside, there is no other way for me to describe them, except that is the place that the Bezos built. Okay, and to see them here is really exciting. for me, because I was here when we had the two-story dorm, like the roadway in apartments over here when we'd stay over there. And I come over and stay with Richard and everybody. It was good. But look what it's grown to. And look what you're a part of. What I want to talk to you about, though, this morning is when I talk about leadership, when I talk about achievement, when I talk about where you want to go. I could have never stood here in 1984 on the day that I walked across the aisle of the Georgia Mountain Center and received my diploma from North Hall High School. If you would have told me that today I'd be standing here, one, speaking to this group, I'd have said, well, maybe. But if you'd have told me the path that my life would have traveled from 1984, the day I graduated high school, to the day I'm standing right here, I would have probably looked at you and said, you're crazy. There's no way that I would go this far. Now, for my mom and dad, they wish I would just have picked a path and found it and went directly, but I'm more like a mountain road. My life has been in twists and turns. Now, for some of you in this room, you know exactly what you want to be. You know exactly what you want to do. You've got your career laid out. You know exactly where you want to be. You're going to finish here. You're going to go to the next step and the next step and the next step. And for you, that journey is already laid out. God bless you. I hope it works out. But for many of you in this room, where you are right now is nowhere amazingly to where you'll be later. But where you're starting right now will end up being the catalyst to get you to where you need to be. It may not believe it. You may not think it. But the old part is a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Begins now. It begins now. Because let me just diffuse a little bit of myths out there. And you've probably heard these, but you're going to hear them again because I think they need to be beat into you. Right now, you're in school, you're having a good time, you're learning. Some of you, well, maybe not the good time. But you're learning, you're growing, but you know something, there's beginning to be a philosophy out there that says that for some reason everybody, just show up and life is going to treat you fair. I want to just reiterate something very clearly here. Life is not fair, get over it. Don't expect it to be fair. Don't ask it to be fair. Don't want it to be fair. Life is not fair. Life is what you have been given, the abilities and talents, I believe, by a God Creator who says that you have these abilities and it is your responsibility to take those with His grace and then go do something with it. It is not for you to be able to just simply say, life, I should get this. I want to do this. Life's not fair. They didn't talk to me. They didn't invite me on their team. They didn't do this. Good Lord, quit whining. I speak to groups all over the country. I speak to adults. Actually, y'all are better than some of the adults I speak to. I had somebody actually in the Congress of the United States the other day say the only fair thing, they were talking about, they said there's nothing fair up here. Only thing was fair is I got to draw a lottery to get my office assignment, but I didn't get to pick anything else. Up here is not fair. I thought to myself, oh my God, you just described life. And you're a member of Congress and don't get this. If you work hard, if you go and you sell, you do what you can do, and you help others along the way, you will be successful in your own eyes and in your own mind. And I don't really care what the other person sitting next to me says. If I'm not successful in their eyes, fine. Let them be successful in their own eyes. But what I've got to figure out in my own life is how do I make this life that I have given and make sure that when I leave this life, that it's been for more than just taking up oxygen and space. So this morning, I just wanted just a few things about life, and I'll just talk about it in life, L-I-F-E, life. The first thing I'm going to do is tell you to leverage your mistakes. Everybody's going to go out here and tell you that it's your successes that will make you famous. It's your successes that will do everything. It's not. I'm going to tell you what. It is your mistakes. It is the times when you fail miserably. It is those times when you have to get up, be the person that you're called to be, and say, I messed up. I blew it. It's those moments in time when you take personal responsibility for your actions and for what you have done, and you say, you know, that wasn't right. Mistakes are not death sentences. Mistakes are not things that will keep you. Mistakes are the things that you actually learn from. In fact, if I was to go around, and maybe I'll just start right here with this row right here. I'm going to ask you for your next mistake. What was your last mistake? This row now is sufficiently panicked. But when we think about it, it's not, how many times do we have something that's really think, wow, I'll remember this forever, some joy that we have. And I know the adults in the room, we think about joys. But I'll tell you what I remember the most. I remember those mistakes. I remember those times that I just blew it. I remember those times when life wasn't the way I planned it. And mistakes, and I'm going to also tag on to this also, hardships. Mistakes and hardships are the things that I have learned the most from. In 1992, in April, my wife and I were excited because in April we were going to have our first child. We were excited. We just went into a ministry opportunity. I was working. I was traveling. We were going to have a child, and everything was good. And I went back. I traveled back from Atlanta. Actually, it was actually to Atlanta to come home to Gainesville. My wife and I were going to have an ultrasound. It was a wonderful thing. And at that point, we got there, and something wasn't right. The lady doing the ultrasound said, "Let me go see the doctor." And my wife said, "What's wrong?" Went on. The nurse said, "It's okay. The doctor's going to come." Come to find out, after a long period there, we found out that my daughter has spina bifida. My daughter is 26 years old. She left before me today to go to work. Now, she's a typical 26-year-old. Any day she doesn't work, she sleeps to lunch. But other than that, she was out and going today. The reason I tell you this story is because here I was, someone who was strong, athletic. I was excited. We're young. We're married. Everything's ahead of us. And all of a sudden, I was told that I was going to have a child who could not walk. Now, I don't know about you, but how many times have we looked at those people in life that are a little bit different than us, or a little bit stranger than us, or may not act like us, and we look at them and either we don't want to be close to them, or we sort of shy away. I know in high school when I had people that I played basketball and baseball, and I was always one that was athletic, and when I see somebody who maybe wasn't like me, I didn't know how to act. You know, what do? You stare at them? You talk to them? And here I was going to be the father of a child with spina bifida. I can remember in those moments thinking, what had I done wrong? What had I done wrong? What was my mistake? And then I realized, starting at that moment, when she looked at me the first time, that I'd been given a gift. That I was a father. And no matter if that fatherhood was not going to be at that time the way I thought it was going to be, it was a blessing that I now learned something different. I learned a path that I never traveled before. Your life experiences, some of you in this room have had terrible life experiences, some of you have had great life experiences, but I want to tell you something. The reason you have those life experiences is for you to share with others, not to keep inside. Some of you are struggling, some of you are having issues, some of you will have issues later in life, but I truly believe now that when another parent or someone young who has had something tragic or has someone in their family with a disability or somebody is struggling, when they come to me and they talk to me, I can relate to them on a level that I never could have related to them before Jordan was born. Now, is that a path that I want to have? Would I want my daughter to get up and walk? You better believe I would. But at the same moment in time, for the moments that I have, for what I've been given, I would not trade her for the world, but also would not trade the experience for the world. Some of you are going through life wanting everything to smell wonderful, and it doesn't. Life sometimes is hard, and life sometimes stinks. But the question is, will you learn from those? Will you engage the world around you? Because if you're not engaging the world around you, then truly, you're not engaging the world. Because not only should you leverage your mistakes, but you must also invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. What I mean by that is find something and learn. You're in class right now. Take advantage of class. How many of you in here just truly like to read? Raise your hand. You just really like to read. I'm glad to see the faculty in the board. That's good. That was the cue, correct, Colonel? Faculty, read, we're talking about that. All right, okay, I do see you up in the balcony. Anybody have hands up there? Leaders? All right, I'm going to tell you something. Leaders are readers. Plain and simple, invest in yourself. If you don't read anything, I don't care what you read. When I was growing up, my dad was a state trooper, and one of the things that meant about my dad was that every holiday, he worked. We didn't get to go to the 4th of July celebration. My dad was working the 4th of July celebration. We didn't get to go to these places. And so I'd watch all these things happen. So for me, my escape back then, before the internet, was opening a book. I was one of those weird kids. Y'all still have an encyclopedia set in the library, right? Librarian. You got several? They do know what they are, correct? Okay. An encyclopedia, great things, A to Z, has many topics. Open a book, you'll find out stuff. What I actually did was actually take one of those and I would just read. And I would find out stuff. I'd go to the doctor's office and they'd have the 4-year-old magazines and I would read stories because you'll never know what you can learn. The sad part I see today, and I speak all over this country and all over this world, and that sad part I see with young people in high school and college right now is that you're learning your world from your hand. You're taking your phone or you're taking your computer and you believe that you're friending and you're tweeting, and most of you are not doing anything except typing words on a keyboard to yourself. The problem is investing in yourself means that you invest in others so that you can get a return on the investment that you are making. Investment means going beyond where you are right now. It means if you want to invest in stuff, you need to study, you need to read, you need to physically challenge yourself. Because I'm going to tell you something, nobody else in this world cares if you do or not. Nobody cares. They may say they do, and they'll encourage you. Your family will, your professors will, everybody. There might be that one person in life who'll say, I want you to become. But at the end of the day, it's about like number one, learn from the experiences, but number two, invest in yourself. And choose that path. Colonel Andy said that I've went a lot of things, and I've been in a lot of areas. I've been in pastoring a church. I have a master's in divinity theology from New Orleans. I have a political science degree. I have a law degree. I've been in the Georgia House. I've been in the State House. I've been in the Air Force. I was actually in the Navy for almost 3.5 years before I came back. Now, some in my life was just simply say I didn't know what I was doing. I can grant you that. My dad sort of looked at me that way at times. But at the end of the day, it is amazing when not only you take life's experiences, but you invest in yourself, it begins to be something that you can pass on to others. Because if you don't do it, who else is? Who else is going to take that time? If you don't believe in yourself, why should I invest in you? One of the first questions I ask for people who actually work for me is I ask them, what do they read, how they invest in themselves, because I want to tell you something. As an employer, when I was employed in a law firm, or when I was working in the church or anywhere else, I wanted to know what you were doing for yourself. Because if I was going to have to be the one that lights your fire every morning, then go find another lighter, because I wasn't going to be it. You need to be able to do that for yourself. But for some of you, it's simply going to be this: you got to find your passion. And that's why Riverside exists. Find your passion. You're going to find out things. You may find out things that you didn't know. Find your passion. Because at the end of the day, when you get up every morning, if you don't have that passion, you will be miserable. How many people, let's just go to the faculty side. How many people do you know that are not in their passion, they don't like, and they get up with life like, I used to pastor a Baptist church, okay, and Baptist, we have this real tradition in our Baptist church that when you come to church, everything's perfect. Because we don't have any problems in the Baptist church for the most part, or any church for that matter. But what I do see a lot of times, you do see some of those people who have this mentality. This is the way they deal with life. Well, I made it through another week. You know something? Let me just interject here. How many of you's favorite day is Friday? Can I encourage you to find another day? Because if you're simply living for Friday, what's happening to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the rest of the week? Those are the times you live. Why wouldn't you make Monday as good as you make Saturday? Why wouldn't you make Tuesday as good as you make Sunday? Why? Because it's an experience of life. What's your passion? What's your passion? Has anybody challenged you with that lately? For the front row here, for the ones in the balcony, what's your passion? What do you feel good about? What do you want to do? What gets you up in the morning? What's those relationships in life? I'm going to tell you something. Read about any leader in the world. Read about any military leader, any political leader, any social leader, any leader that you want to think about in business or anywhere else. You will find in their history. And by the way, if you're not reading biographies, go read biographies. Read the history of biographies. Read about people in their lives. You can learn a lot about your own. And you will find the common thread through most everyone is a passion for something in their life. But the last part before I answer some questions is this, and this is probably one of the most important. is in life. I've already said. You got to set high expectations. You got to want it for yourself. You got to do those things. And you say, well, I don't know. But sometimes, let me be very careful. This is your warning. This is the E. This is the life warning. You need to expect a lot of your respect of self, and you need to expect no help from anybody else. But I want to give you the hidden ingredient that will take you to the next level, that at least will, I think, add something to your journey here in life. And that is expect a lot of yourself, expect no help from anybody else, but always expect you to help somebody else. Always find somebody else that you can bring along with you. Always find somebody else that you can turn around and help over the wall. Always find somebody else that you can help them with their own passion. It is one thing to have your own. It's another thing to help somebody else. It's another thing to sit in the balcony or to sit in the back or sit in the front or teach or do anything else. The question is, who are you pouring your life into? And at this age, you say, well, I'm just having people pour into me. Well, why don't you pour into others? Upperclassmen, are you pouring into underclassmen? Seniors, are you giving to juniors? Juniors, are you giving to sophomores? Sophomores, are you giving to freshmen? Faculty, are you giving to other faculty? Members here who are not on faculty, are you giving to your family? The question in life is that we've lost is, I have every desire in life to be all that I believe I'm supposed to be and God called me to be. But if I'm not giving that away, if I'm not turning around, expecting it of myself, but then expecting to help others, then I am missing it, because that is a hidden ingredient. When life gets to where it's nothing but a Twitter or Facebook Live or a life going through or living for Fridays, then you're missing the very essence of life, because life, at the end of the day, is about helping other people. Bottom line. There's a great book, and it's a military principle, that We Were Soldiers Once and Young. It's a great movie. If you want to see the movie, I'd actually say read the book and watch the movie. Or if you haven't watched the movie, then go read the book. But one of the things in there, one of the principles was taught was always that every man taught their job to the one below and above. Everybody knew what to do. Because that one principle was this. One of these days, student body, you're going to be in a position when life is not going to be what it's supposed to be. And if you've been investing in others, you've been taking time to connect with those in your world, at those moments, you can then turn to that other person and say, I need help. And that person will be there. Why? Because life's fair? No. Because you invested in them. And when we understand that in life, then you can quit reading the headlines. You can quit reading everything else. Because at the end of the day, for most of us in this room, just as I did a funeral this past week, the people that will be there will not be there because you're out. Get over that thought. People do not go to funerals because there's somebody dead. And some of you are looking at me like, this guy really is crazy. No, you don't go because there's a death. Death is simply the thing that brings you there. What brings you there and makes you want to go is that person's life. You go not, man, people die every day. You don't go to the funeral home. But when somebody you know, somebody that touched you, is that not true? Ron, you see it every day, don't you? The people that come is because people touched them. The old Chinese proverb says that we're like a piece of chalk marking along the wall as we walk. Everywhere we go, we leave a mark. My question to each and every one of you is, what's your mark say about you? What's your mark tell others about you? And will others know that they're marked by your life as you go through it? Life's hard. Get over it. Get up. Go take everything you can and invest in others as you go. All right, thank you. I'll answer some questions now.
Congressman Collins, we have a question from the balcony up to your left.
Okay, I got it.
Hello, sir.
Hey, up here, how are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
I'm plumb outstanding.
My name is Cadet Matt LeVert from Hotel Company, and I was wondering what your greatest fear and your greatest strength in the upcoming election is.
Interesting. I The greatest fear, I'm not sure there's a greatest fear. I think it's about like anybody who, you know, from anybody in public life, your greatest fear maybe is not being understood or being taken at half a quote, you know, those kind of things. It's, you know, going into this election year, it's going to be an interesting year. I mean, we've had, for whatever you want to say, good or bad or indifferent, and there's politically opinions across the spectrum, and I respect them all, disagree with some, but I think this is going to be an interesting year to see what happened in the last election, how it's played through to now, because I know someone who's been in office now for almost 10 years on the state and the federal level. What's really the interesting part, especially in this area up here, is the activity level between groups has just simply shifted. My first few years in Congress, conservative voices were very loud in this district, and now these last year, and a little over a year, the more liberal progressive voices. And I think it's a good thing, people participating, but it is interesting. So I think it's going to be an interesting time to see how those play out as we go forward, and what really what the views are coming on. It's going to be a tight election, though. I will say this. You know, that's just a fact that we're seeing in polls across the country right now. Thanks. Yes.
Morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Cadets Maker from both company. My question is, what books or what book can you recommend to us?
What books? I will tell you two right now, because I'm a big believer in biographies. There's two that will give you a really different perspective on World War II. One, they're both written by the same author, Carlo d'Este, and he wrote Patton and Eisenhower. I would highly recommend those two books if you want to go biographies and looking at those, because they give you a look at the men's lives from birth to death, but all the different aspects. So it's really interesting in leadership and everything else. The other books that I read more, lots of old books, more biographies and that. I'm reading a lot right now on Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his relationship with what was then a burgeoning spy community, and also his relationship with Churchill. So right now I'm sort of in there. For pleasure reading, I read Tom Clancy. It's about as light a reading as I get. I read Clancy. The problem is I can read Tom Clancy's books in about 24 hours, so I got to find something else to read as we go. But that's my recommendation right now is biographies. There's other things that if you flow in that line would, I think, give you the foundation for leadership and other things as you go forward. Also, biographies remind you that people are people too. Sometimes we lose that track.
Congressman Collins, another question from the balcony.
Hello, sir. My name is Cadet Stewart from India Company. I was wondering how can I make myself known in my community as a good politician, or as to spread the word that I'm running for my town government.
Okay, where are you from?
Braselton, Georgia, sir.
Braselton, all right. Got a great time. The best part is this, and it was something that I talk about a lot of times, and hear me out here. The way I started, and I didn't really know that eventually I would end up being congressman. That's a journey in life that we made to. But I remember my first jobs were back when you actually had, and some of you in the room will remember this. I went to a campaign and I volunteered and I said, "Can I go help?" And it was a local folks running, and they said, "Sure." And what they gave me was a pile of wood stakes and some cardboard signs. Now, I don't know about you, but in Braselton and Gainesville in the summertime, back then when we had our election, that red clay gets hard and you're trying to jam these wood stakes in the ground and staple signs to them. But that's what I did, and then I go hand out stuff. You know what I have a lot of times, though? And Joel Katz, by the way, Joel is here with me. Joel is my deputy chief of staff. He also runs my Gainesville. Some of you also know Bill Coakley, who works. And many times we have people who come to want jobs for us, especially on the campaign side. And you'll be amazed at how many people come on the campaign side and never have any campaign experience at all. And what do they want to? Well, I want to run your press operations. Well, I would like to do political strategy. Well, how about you political strategize those signs out there in the yard? No matter what job you have, start where people give you a chance. How you want to be known? You become the best at you and the best at doing things nobody else is willing to do. If nobody else is willing to go clean those tables, go clean those tables. If nobody else is willing to go out and hang signs, if nobody else is willing to go talk to this certain person, go talk to them. Be the person that does things nobody else does. We've raised a society, unfortunately, even my own children, who believe that they start at a certain level up just because they've done something. You've not done anything until you've actually done it. So start where you start slow, start small, and you'll be amazing. You do the best you can at the small. Theodore Roosevelt has a philosophy of life, that I ascribe to, and it's called bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. And when you bloom where you're planted, everybody will see the flower.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm Cadet Blaine from Alpha Company. I was wondering, why can't Congress maintain a budget, and do you think it's fair to put the debt on the American people?
And what was the old movie saying? Well, mainly it's tradition, unfortunately, in Congress. It's not, it's bad. It's a failure. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I mean, not being able to get a budget, not being able to get appropriations is a failure of the system. And what we just saw this past week was a failure. And I'm one of those that will actually say, you know, a few years ago, we see the same things happen over and over. We're not learning from history. But one of the things that we've gotten into right now is, and I'm not sure where we actually get over this, because from the House's perspective and the Senate perspective are really two different, really worldviews. In the House, we're simply majority only, and we can pass pretty much anything, for the most part, that we want. We have our factions as well. That's an interesting time for any of you political scientists or anything else. I believe we're actually, in some ways, becoming more parliamentary in our system instead of the two parties that, you know, it's becoming a little bit more interesting because we have factions a lot, which combines, but that's a whole different conversation. But what we have is a problem in the Senate right now in which, you know, the filibuster rule, and that is to get 60 votes to move anything. And before anybody becomes real, oh, well, that's history and tradition, and we've got to have that. They've changed it several times over the course of our country's history. So, you know, it can be changed. It is a concern right now, but until we're able to get to that point of discussion, we've got to be able to find ways of common ground to move this forward. But as far as the public, you know, the debt and the debt center, we got to actually balance the budget first, and that's going to be the next big thing. You can't balance if you don't add debt until you can balance it, because we'll have a deficit each year. It's a great question though, but it is a failure right now. In fact, I led a group this past year. Some of our members, we've talked to David Perdue in the Senate, and we've also had bipartisan issues. There's many of us who recognize this. We're now just trying to figure out what is the best place forward to redo how our budget system works. It's a great question. One more.
Congressman, we have one more question from the balcony.
All right.
How you doing today, sir? This is Victor Pittman from the India Company. First of all, I like your energy.
Thank you.
But my question was, you spoke on perseverance through conflicts in your life and everything, and I want to know, what was your hardest, how do I say this, triumph as a congressman?
Hardest triumph? I misheard you, I think.
Most challenging triumph as a congressman?
I think actually from a legislative perspective, there was a bill which, we got two bills. One that was coming up, we did a bill on trade secrets, and it was a bill that was very difficult for a long period. I think that was a hard, you know, issue just have to plow. Most people believe that bills, you know, just happen very easily, and they don't. In fact, we have members of Congress who come and say, well, I'll just come change the world. You know, it is one of the reasons I love campaigns, and I've been guilty of this as well. I'm going to go to Congress and change everything. Well, no, you're probably not. But, you know, you can if you work at it. And if you work at it and put your heart into it and put bills. And so I think I could point to several bills we've passed, and we've actually passed almost 9 pieces of legislation, which we're very proud of in our office, and we're getting ready to do several more that deal with how we deal with security on your emails, and also with music, and also with other things. And those are all good, but I think the hardest thing that, for me, is a struggle that I've had to deal with is having to come from the Georgia House, in which we actually got things done, is to going up to Washington, D.C. and really looking at the polarization that has occurred on both sides, and then not being able to find a path forward on certain issues that I would still like to see happening. So it's a struggle each and every day. Budget's one, you know, there's a lot of others.
So can you comment on
Thank you.
the trends in the music industry that you were mentioning earlier today, and why that's requiring some legislation?
It is. One of the interesting issues, and we just dropped this bill, in fact, we're moving forward. I would say most of you in here, I would assume that most of you in here get your music from Spotify or something like that. Would that be general agreement here? Most of you stream? Yeah. Anybody out and go buy records all the time? You know, got a few. No, most of you know, the whole thing has changed. What's really interesting is I'm standing here today, and the technology that you have in your hand is more computing power than I had in my entire school at North Hall when I graduated. And the way that we work that, so what we're doing is actually trying to figure out a way to make sure that the folks who write the songs, the creative energy that it takes to write a song and then get paid for it, actually has a way to get paid on a fair basis. You wouldn't realize this at all, but the government has, there are 3 ways a songwriter gets paid. And we're not talking about the Taylor Swifts. Yes, they get paid. We're talking about the folks who come and write songs for a living, and that's all they do. And they don't go on tour. They don't sell t-shirts. They don't do this thing. This is just a creative art. And look, everything changes in life, but it's got to be fair. And when the government puts its finger on it, I'll tell you this, whenever the government gets involved with most anything on the bigger scale, it does end up being a problem. And in music, there are 3 ways they get paid. Government has their finger on 2 of them. And then on one they don't. I'll let you take a guess at which one they get fairly paid on. It's the one in which the government doesn't have control of it. And so we're trying to remove some of that government restriction, still that it's still in a platform in which people can actually, share their wares and get a fair pay for it, and also protect the mediums that we're looking at. That bill has taken, by the way, 5 years to deal with. I mean, something is sort of, you say, as simple as that, but the diversity of opinion on that has been amazing. But actually, by having everybody together, where I can actually sound now, say Spotify is sitting down with the broadcasters, and broadcasters are sitting down with the publishers, and songwriters sitting down. That is something that I will just say this: I don't care what you're in this room working on. Don't give up. If you believe in it, don't give up. And don't let anybody else tell you to give up. My last word is this before I leave this stage: is every one of you in here are special. Every one of you in here have a gift. I don't know what it is, but you do. You may not have discovered it yet, but you will. But the last thing in life that I never want to actually have happen is you get to a certain point in your life and you turn around and you say, I wish I had, but so-and-so told me I shouldn't. At the end of the day, the one who created you gave you the gift. Listen to that voice and always keep pressing forward. Riverside, you have a wonderful tradition. You're standing on the shoulders of those who came before you, and you're making them proud. But always remember this: your privilege is a responsibility, because the ones who will come in the future will stand on your shoulders as you go out into the world and make a difference. God bless you. Thank you so much.